True story, I once asked our veterinarian if my dog knew how much I loved him. And while I'm sure we all want the answer to that question, these are the most commonly asked vet questions and the answers. So let's bark about it. Welcome back to Alpha Paw, your destination for everything dog. I'm Bernie Zilio, and I'm on a mission to answer every doggone question you've ever had about your fur babies. And today, we're answering the top 5 questions you want to know about your doggo, so we can hopefully save you some time scrolling through PetMD. And fortunately, we have with us today an expert vet, Dr. Ross Bernstein. Dr. Ross is a seasoned veterinary professional and pet care expert. He earned his doctorate degree in veterinary medicine at the UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, and his work has been featured in several industry-leading publications, including the Journal of Veterinary Surgery. He is our go-to vet for everything we want and need to know about our fur babies. So welcome back to Alpha Pod, Dr. Ross.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm sure as a veterinarian, you get tons of crazy questions. So before we get started about the 5 questions we all want to know, what's the craziest question you've ever been asked?
I guess it depends what you say crazy, but it's always interesting when for example, a dog came in with a rash on his belly, and we were talking about the rash, possible causes, possible treatments, and then the owner started to take off their shirt and started asking me if I think that their rash could be the same rash as their dogs. So these situations sometimes get a bit awkward, but should always recommend. I mean, sometimes some skin rashes can be zoonotic, and for example, one of those is scabies. But when their owners have a rash, they should always consult their own physician and not ask me.
Well, that's a good rule of thumb. And maybe one day we can compile a video about all the craziest, funniest stories you've heard. But for today, I want to ask you like the 5 top questions that I think pet owners have about their pets. So the first one, I actually think we all want to know is, why do our dogs eat grass?
Eating grass in dogs is, some dogs do it all the time, and some dogs can do it when they're sick. I think it comes down to the owner knowing what their dog generally does. And so, like, for example, my dog, every time I take him to the park, he eats grass. It doesn't mean he's necessarily sick. But there are other dogs that never eat grass ever. And if their owner suddenly notices that they're eating grass or eating sticks or eating rocks, eating stuff around the house, it very well could mean that they have some gastrointestinal or GI problem. Sometimes it can also be a behavioral thing where dogs compulsively eat things. And some dogs are different, that they become these repeat offenders is what we call them. If they're known to, I know that's probably a bad word to put it, but if we see a dog that comes in a lot for eating rocks and we have to cut them out of his intestines, for example, more than twice, then I think their owner should start changing some of the things in their environment around them to prevent them from getting in those situations.
But when it comes to grass, like if a dog, because my dog doesn't eat grass, but if he is having stomach issues or stomach problems, would it occur to him to eat grass to make him feel better? Like, is that instinctual?
Sometimes they'll eat random things. If they're sick, they can vomit, they can have diarrhea, they can lose their appetite. Sometimes they eat grass, but eating grass by itself does not necessarily mean that they're sick. They
Okay.
can be totally fine and just eat grass. And that can be totally normal too.
So question number 2 is also a pretty commonly asked question. It's about weight. I think pet owners are always cautious about how heavy or thin their animals are. So I kind of wanted to know how a pet owner can be assured that their pet is at a healthy weight.
There's some very helpful guides that you can find on the internet. If you just Google it, it's called a body condition score, where as a veterinarian in every physical exam, we look at a dog and can grade them on a scale from 1 being emaciated or skin and bones, and 9 obese, where they are way overweight. And the ideal dog is going to be somewhere between 4 and 5. And so the general rule of thumb is you want to be able to just barely feel their ribs under the skin. And an analogy I like to use is with our hands. So if they're too skinny or a grade 1 on the scale, it's like you're making a fist and you can feel their ribs kind of like your knuckles over here.
Okay. Oh, okay.
9 is the palm of your hand over here, where you have to press through some tissue to feel the bones. Whereas ideal is if your hand is flat and you're feeling the ribs like this.
This is kind of along those lines, but I know that because of social media, this obsession with like chunky animals has kind of taken over. And I think that's problematic. We're glorifying probably unhealthy animals, right?
Definitely. And a lot of people, they think that they give in to their dogs, giving them the sad face or giving them table scraps at the end of meals. And I mean, we all do it. I mean, some people are very good and don't do it. I guess I shouldn't say we all do it, but but obesity and overweight dogs can definitely affect pretty much every organ in their body. There was a study of Labradors done where Labradors that were fed on a restricted diet, meaning they weren't just allowed to eat as much as they wanted, they had longer lifespans than dogs that were on a restricted diet.
Okay, so the next question is semi-related. How do you know if your dog has a food allergy?
That's a great question. And I actually get asked that a lot. Well, people will come in bringing their dogs in they think it's ear problems. They think it's anal gland issues. Sometimes they can have rashes on their skin. Sometimes they can have chronic vomiting. And they don't actually realize it can be related to the food. So usually in the food, dogs are, if they're allergic or have an intolerance, it's usually to the protein in the food. In rare cases, it can be the carbohydrate. And I think there is one case report of a dog being allergic to carrots. There's a known enteropathy of Springer Spaniels have a gluten intolerance. But other than that, it's usually to the protein. But some of the classic signs for dogs with food allergies, they can get chronic ear infections. They can have chronic anal gland issues where they're scooting on the ground all the time, or you realize you have to bring them into the vet every couple of months or so to have their anal glands expressed. Sometimes they can be chronic dogs that just vomit. I mean, that's probably one of the more serious issues. Sometimes they can also get skin allergies. And if it's a skin issue and it's due to the food, it would probably be anytime they eat that food, whether it's in a treat, from a table scrap, or in the actual kibble or homemade diet that they make.
So I do want to apologize on behalf of my dog Pod, who apparently is not allergic to his squeaky toy.
I was wondering what that was.
It's his little TV, and I tell him that it only plays Animal Planet. So the next question I have for you, Dr. Ross, is, do we really have to brush our dog's teeth every day? Nobody wants to, but I think we all really need to know the answer.
Some people do. I think so. Dogs' dental and oral health is just as important as it is in us. When they eat, they risk developing plaque and tartar accumulation, and that can definitely over time build up and cause dental disease. So brushing their teeth every day, or sometimes twice a day, or every day would be ideal. I'd say if you're not doing it at least every other day, there's not really much of a point to do it. But their oral health and dental health can affect pretty much every organ in the body as well, such as the heart and the kidneys, for example. So brushing their teeth is definitely important.
Well, that's unfortunate to hear because it sucks to brush their teeth.
Yeah. That being said, it's time consuming. It takes a lot of training sometimes and patience, and not every dog will tolerate it. So I definitely understand. I will admit I don't brush my dog's teeth every day, but if you're not going to do that, then I would recommend then at least periodically having your veterinarian check out your dog's teeth to make sure that they don't have any fractured teeth, that they're not building up an excessive amount of tartar and calculus, they don't have any loose teeth, and just to get some tips on their dental health. There are dental cleanings or a complete oral health assessment and treatment where you can have your dog completely put under anesthesia so that their airway is protected. We can take x-rays of their teeth, so we can not only look at the teeth above the gum line, but also below the gum line, and see and check out the roots of the teeth, and then do a full cleaning. And if they need any extractions or teeth pulled, we can do that as well.
Alpha Paw actually makes a mouthwash that helps eliminate bad breath, it fights tartar, and it fights plaque buildup. So you basically just add 1 tablespoon to your dog's water bowl, and that's pretty much it. Is that something, Dr. Ross, that would be helpful?
I don't want to say that it replaces brushing, but if you're not going to be doing that, then
it's a good alternate, like in between kind of situation.
Plaque is basically a film of food particles and bacteria that can coat the teeth. And eventually, if they get into the bloodstream, that can be pretty bad and spread to other areas in the body, but not only the mouth, but other areas in the body too. So the mouthwash is good because it can reduce the bacterial load in the mouth, as well as help prevent the bacteria from sticking onto the teeth. So it kind of works in both ways.
Well, we'll definitely be linking the mouthwash in the description box below. So thank you for that. And I do have one last question for you. When should we actually take our dogs to the vet?
Every pet owner is going to know their dog better than their vet, or better than someone else who's taking care of them. But in general, you should look for changes in behavior, any vomiting, diarrhea, decreased appetite, lethargy, open wounds such as bleeding, seizures, if they ate something that you know is toxic, such as chocolate, grapes, coffee, onions, garlic, macadamia nuts. I mean, the list goes on and on, but you know, owners are going to know their dog better than other people. And when there's a change in their normal everyday routine, then that's definitely a cause for concern.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Dr. Ross.
You're welcome. It's awesome. It's awesome being here.
Do you guys have more questions for Dr. Ross? Leave them in the comment section below. Again, I'm Bernie Zilio, and this is Alpha Paw. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single doggone episode. See you next time.